And so we can't pay them directly to the students.
You see us okay and all that good stuff? Good.
Evening, Rob.
Greg, how are you?
All right, how are you?
Good.
Mariana.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I want to be thinking about your girlfriend when you're Saturday things.
That's really unusual, that's unusual that she wouldn't.
All right, no problem. Thanks. We're just waiting for Patty. She's on her way. Hey, Beth. We've got some folks on Zoom. Patty's on her way. She just got back from Paris. She said 5 minutes, so should be here in a minute.
Oh my God, so romantic. I was walked in, romantic, Sunset Drive, Sunset Road. Not romantic.
Am I on? Am I on? Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry I'm late. Okay, without further ado, shall we get started?
Yep.
Yes.
Good.
Let's call this meeting to order at 7:08 PM.
Pledge allegiance to the
Flag,
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How are you doing, Rob?
Good.
I'm better.
Hey, Mariana. And
Hi, Mariana.
hey, Greg there too.
Hey, Greg.
Hi.
Has everyone had an opportunity to read the meeting minutes from our meeting on the 14th of January? And if so, are there any edits or comments? And if none, could I have a motion to approve said minutes?
Motion to approve the Nahant School Committee meeting minutes of January 14th, 2025.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Moving on to the acknowledgement of visitors. Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry that I'm late. I just came back. So I appreciate you waiting. But I don't know who is online. Can anyone?
Mariana, Greg, Overlook.
I've got them. We have JES teachers Kayla Harrington
Great.
and Nancy Caggiano and community member Heather Goodwin. Two board members, Mariana Heyer and Greg Panessa are on Zoom. I believe that's the group we have with us.
We have Deborah Warren is also on Zoom.
Deborah Lauren,
Warren.
okay.
Miss Warren, you're on mute.
Hi, I'll introduce myself. I'm the liaison from FinCom to the school, and so I will just be a fly on the wall.
Oh, well, we
you, Deb.
appreciate you taking the time to join us this evening.
Well, I'll listen in for a while. Anyway, good to meet you, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
So does anyone have any community correspondence or input that they would like to share? Has anyone on the school committee received any? I have not.
So I believe as school committee members, we received a communication from Miss Goodwin.
We did?
Yes, we did.
Oh, I'm so sorry. As I said, I've been out of town. I am a little behind. Would Heather, where you're joining us this evening, would you like to voice your concern, or would you like one of the school committee members to read it?
Well, I feel like the letter was said everything I was feeling. If you guys want to discuss it, I will be here to listen to your comments.
I will say I did not receive it, because he probably sent it to Johnson School, and I've been using my personal email, for school committee business. That's on me. I apologize, but I'm gonna need to be briefed.
Heather, one question I had about your email is it looked like it got cut off at the end. And it
Okay.
The way it ended sounded like there was um more to be said. So
Well,
I just,
where did
it
it
end,
end?
it ended with, I met with our new superintendent, Mr. Lebo, when he was interviewing for the position at JES, and then it stopped.
Oh, okay. Well, it definitely went on from there. Let me see if I can find it. Well,
So
I
I just
mean,
don't, I don't know that
so
the whole message was conveyed in the email that I received at least. So that was one question that I had.
probably not if that's where it ended. So, I mean, I can reiterate what it said, which was, um, I have a grave concern for our LGBTQ children, who are in the elementary school here and beyond. My child went through a pretty traumatic experience at the Johnson School, which included bullying for identifying as non-binary. We did file a report with the state, so it is on public record. And I don't want to rehash that, but what I want to say is that I do not feel that my child was protected their time at the Johnson School. And with the new administration and all these restrictions and regulations made on gender identity, I mean, as a lifetime resident and someone who has seen other children go through at the Johnson School, not quite as publicly as we did, I just wanted to state publicly that I hope you guys take very seriously protecting these children. LGBTQ children are more likely to harm themselves, to kill themselves. My child had an extremely difficult time after the Johnson School with the same kids who she spent time with at the Johnson School. It doesn't go away unless action is taken. What that action is, that's for you to decide. I know there was zero communication between parents while this was going on. I know that any sort of like meetings I wanted to have as a community or with other parents with the administration wasn't taken seriously. It literally never happened. I know you have a new superintendent, and I did take the time to meet him with my husband to discuss these things when he was being interviewed. Like, this isn't something that just goes away for a family. Like, this is something that I've continued for now 6 years since my child was at the Johnson School to follow up with the middle school and the high school. And I just fear for these children because, yeah, we're a very small town, but when you're isolated for your gender identity, that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. And Nahant can do better. I know we have good people in the school committee. I know we have good people in the school. I know people love and care about these children, but some are just more vulnerable to bullying and harassment. And now's our time to figure out how to make sure that they're protected. Thank you.
May I speak to this?
Of course you can.
I was personally involved with this issue, and it was 6 years ago, and it troubles me that Heather is still feeling that need to contact the school to touch base and make sure things are done appropriately. My idea is perhaps we can review what did happen prior, learn from that experience, and look at what our policies are. And if they need changes and updating, I have to say my heart goes out to her. And nobody should go through this. It's not right. And I think that we have the ability to do something by really looking at our policy and how we attend to these issues.
If I may, Heather, I'm so glad you brought this. I just did log into the email successfully and was able to find it. So 2 things. Thank you so much for continuing to bring this up. You could easily say, I'm done with it. I am a lesbian mom who has an African-American daughter who graduated last year from high school. watching my daughter fight, the amount of bias that she had to fight in Swampscott's public schools where she went to elementary school. And then at Essex Tech was staggering. And it aged me and it, left an indelible mark on her that was not good. And she's, had not gotten over it.
I'm
As
so sorry.
all of us as parents can relate to, like, when your child goes through unnecessary heartache just because of who they are. It's awful, and it takes a real upstander, especially in today's times, to kind of stand up and say, it's, we gotta look out for them, and they get to determine their own course. I'm sorry for what happened before. Many of us were there, and maybe it looks like, you know, those of us tried, and we can do better. The other side of that is that I, as a person who's part of the LGBT community, with my wife, I have seen the Johnson School make some moves in my tenure here as a resident of Nahant over the past 4 years that have made me feel good. So, we had a meeting with Mr. Andrews when we first moved and talked about, supporting our kids being part of a lesbian family. And while they have absolutely had incidents where people have made fun of them for having gay moms, I do feel like the school in the last 4 years has definitely reacted appropriately to that and has named it. I also do feel like the school has revised its bullying policies, has talked about LGBTQ issues and issues around being anti-racist, even as recently as the last 2 months. Patty and I had a conversation with Mr. Lebo about the way that he was able to address some racism that came up in the school community, and felt glad for that, right? And so I do feel like, while it is not perfect and there's, you know, more that I definitely want to see all schools do, it does feel a little different than the way that you've relayed your experience here. And I'll say, like Greg, the email did get cut off, so I didn't hear further than Mr. Lebo.
I'm sorry about that. Yes, I see that as well.
And you can certainly speak to it now if you want. And so, I do, you know, as a person who is part of that community, feel that way. And certainly we can always do more. And I think you are highlighting something that we should bring up. I'll also say, these times are particularly hellish for folks that do identify in a non-binary way. I think it's really difficult for people that have felt supported by DEI related programs and other things that are happening that are being slashed. And as a school committee, you know, we are gonna have to pay attention to that and figure out our way forward. So I appreciate you bringing that up, especially now when it is gonna be even more difficult because of the ways that bias has given a permission slip.
Thank you. I thank you both for what you've just said, and I do appreciate that. I mean, honestly, I'm not part of the Johnson School community anymore, which is, it breaks my heart personally because I'm an artist. I'm a lifetime Nahanter. I used to work at the Johnson School doing art programs. I organized 01908. I painted the mural in the school, and when all this happened, my family was vilified. You know, we were told we were too angry. We were told that this doesn't happen here in Nahant. We were told that, you know, my child was lying about incidents. I was told I wasn't even really allowed in the school anymore at some point because I was in there so many times trying to defend my child. So, yes, I love hearing that it's more tolerant, and I appreciate that. But I do know that parents have come to me personally since our time there and asked me what to do, and I had no answers for them. I said, go through the channels like we did, go to school committee meetings. Max spoke at a school committee meeting and was immediately bullied online by people who worked at the school. So I guess, yes, I love seeing progress. But if this happens again, like, just listen to the children, because they're smarter than you think they are, right? They know when they're being targeted, and sometimes they don't have as supportive parents as we were for Max. So But I do appreciate both of your comments. Thank you very, very much for your support.
Thanks for speaking up and sharing.
Yes, thank you so much, Heather, and I'm so sorry that you and your child gone through that. That's awful.
I mean, I'm here for the community. Honestly, if any child needs someone, I'm here. Like, use me as a resource if you ever need to. Feel free to go over what happened to us, because I do think it's a learning experience and it is public record. And, anything that you move forward to do is greatly appreciated by my family.
Thank you again, Heather.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments that they would like to make? I don't see any hands, so I'll take that as a no. So we can move on to the examination and authorization for payment of bills.
Okay, those bills are circulated at the front table. There is nothing unusual on the list. The total is $17,046.81. Smaller than last time, and I'd answer any questions on any of the specifics, but they're standard offer items.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the smallest bill roll I've seen in a very long time, but I have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the bill roll for this meeting at a total of $17,046.81.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moving on to the superintendent's report.
Mine is not too lengthy. By the way, Kevin could not be here this evening. But I'm going to give his report as well. Remember last time I told you that we had secured the minivan, and that
Yes.
the plates came today in the registration. So it just has a couple of repairs left, and due to the exhaust system, minor hangers for the exhaust, and then the stenciling, and by the end of February vacation, that should be available. It will wear the sticker of the new mascot, the blue lobster, that Mary Delisio in the contest for at school. I think it's something that everyone will be proud of. Again, we got it through the Manchester Council on Aging for a reasonable price. Takes up to 14 individuals, can be driven with a regular license, and will be perfect for taking short trips around the area, as opposed to trying to contract for a bus that could be $1,200 for the day to take kids somewhere, and that's just been prohibitive to be able to do that. And the second item I have is, I had mentioned the last time that I thought I was going to table the greenhouse project because of the lack of being able to acquire alternative funding. We had a foundation that had wanted to remain nameless or confidential for obvious reasons, and they had agreed to fund a third of the project originally. When I started to run out of steam with any other local contributions, I asked them whether they'd consider doing 2/3, and they said, well, let's see how things go. And then I wrote and said, well, I'd sort of flamed out on the alternates, and about a week later they said, could you do a Zoom? And that was this morning, and I was told that the board of directors voted this week to fund the entire project. So they're going to provide $80,000 to allow us to barn raise a greenhouse next to the school garden. It would be located and then where that photo is. And I just want everybody to know, every single organization that I approached wanted to help. It's just there were so many competing needs, and the amount of money that was involved was just prohibitive. It wasn't that they disagreed with the project or didn't want to give up funds, but funds were hard to come by in many cases, not in huge amounts, and often already committed. So I want to thank the folks that I approached, the Garden Club, the PTO, the Ed Foundation, even CPA for the town, I think really wanted to do it, but because it didn't quite meet the criteria, they weren't able to contribute. So that's the location. You folks won't be able to see that unless someone sort of holds it up, but it's gonna, I'll walk
Yeah,
away.
like-
I was gonna say, I don't think
I got
I
it.
can see it this
It's a
far
little-
away.
A little strange, but we have that photo. But it will, is that about right, Mariana? I can see you right there. Does that show up okay?
You come a little closer.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Right, so it's gonna be off to the right of where the garden is. And this is a schematic of how the greenhouse would look. It'll be about 17 by 27 feet long. Its front will look like that. It's not with glass, it's with polycarbonate. And generally, if you were off to the side of it, this is sort of a winter shot of one that's similar, it would look like that. So it'll be heated and lighted. Remember, we'll be able to raise produce for the cafeteria, as well as be able to maybe use the minivan to take kids that are involved over to the food pantries and deliver produce that's grown.
That's.
So this was.
I think that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Get that call, and
Oh, excuse.
they said a 15-minute phone call lasted about 2 minutes. And there was a connection with Nahant, is all I can say, and they wanted to make sure that the project happened, so good news.
And thank you for not giving up.
I know, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Congratulations that your efforts have paid
Yeah.
off. Thank you.
I
Really
don't
good
give
at
up
opening
very
opportunities, Mr. Lebo, really are, that's great,
Very pleased with that.
that's so exciting.
So we'll just move forward and
And
hopefully
please
by next fall,
thanks.
that'll be here and up and running.
Extend our thanks to the donor. Most appreciated.
In terms of the principal's report, Kevin gave me a list. They were going to interview 2 candidates for a kindergarten position for long-term substitute to cover for Maddie Federo's maternity leave this spring. That was going to be done tomorrow. But Kevin has an illness right now and needs to take care of that for a couple of days, and those will be rescheduled. The after-school program, we actually are getting a little traction on that. There's some interest from an organization called Champions that runs after-school programs. We need to do some reference checks with regard to what kind of programs are in Massachusetts, but it seems promising and seems reasonably priced. So Kevin's working on that. Probably would not open till the fall in terms of hiring and lead time and licensing and all that sort of stuff. But that's a lot better off than we were a month or so ago on that. In terms of curriculum, the newly formed curriculum committee has met, and we have decided on math programs to look at, and we are specifically trying to be sure that they integrate and dovetail well with what's going on in Swampscott. So there's some connection there. So there's 4 or 5 programs. Kayla Harrington that's on here tonight is on that committee. Gabby Rademacher is on that, Kevin Andrews and myself. And I'm looking forward to the results from that. There was a 2-day safety care program that just occurred for 10 staff members, mostly paraprofessionals. Beth Schindler from the teaching staff, Riley Edmonds from the teaching staff, Kevin and I, put on by the North Shore Educational Consortium's ECBA. And it's about handling students in emotional trauma and how you do that so that it doesn't get out of hand. And that was very good. And that was, last day was Monday of this week. So that was Kevin's report.
Does Champions run any programs right now in Massachusetts, Mr. Lebo?
Mhm.
Does Champions run any after? School?
I asked Kevin that this morning.
Oh,
He's done the initial lead work.
Okay,
And one of the clarifying questions, because they're out of Ohio.
yeah,
So what programs are in New England? What programs are in Massachusetts? What reference checks do we have? And they've sent an initial sort of engagement letter. It's not a commitment, but it allows them to do some research about licensing and that sort of thing. So it made me a little nervous that they weren't a sort of in-state organization, but that's not necessarily bad. We just need to make sure that it's a program that would fit here. So,
and I think like hiring situations might be different in other parts of the country. I think that's all great if they want to start their first program in Massachusetts, but they should hopefully understand the realities they're up against,
Yep.
you know, in
Yep.
such a,
what I saw today
Or
looked
far away.
good,
yes,
you know,
online it does,
briefly.
yes,
And
that's
it-
great,
Everybody markets pretty well. So
yes.
we'll just have to see
Sure.
who's used it and are
Right.
still using it and why, and has it been worthwhile?
Yeah,
The pricing structure looked really good. There was a lot of flexibility in the days and commitment with time
That's great.
frames. So we'll just have to see what other information Kevin gets as he researches that.
Great. That's wonderful. So I think we can move on to, is there any old business that we want to discuss?
Personnel updates, are we on?
Personnel.
There are no further personnel updates. There's nothing under old business, and under new business, we just have 2 items.
Okay. So we can move on to the other committee business.
Yep, first item is the proposed school calendar for next year. And I sent it out to the board, so they should have a copy, and folks at the table should have it. There are 2 versions there. There's the traditional sort of line list, which is sort of hard to visualize where things are. And then there's a format that shows an actual calendar laid out with a color structure. The only change in the calendar from the way it was structured last year, we did a survey of teachers. And one of the things they were interested in is trying to make sure that any nighttime event is on the same night. So we have shifted to Thursday instead of Wednesday, and that when the parent-teacher conferences happen, that it be Thursday and then Friday, as opposed to Wednesday and Thursday, and then come back and teach all day on Friday. So we have implemented that. Open house would be on Thursday in February instead of Wednesday. The only other request that had come in from the teachers was to try to mirror the parent-teacher conferences that are done in the fall the same way in the spring with the 2-day format. The principal feels that there is a little less participation in the spring, and that in most cases, teachers would be able to schedule in that one day. I have gone on record, and I'll do it publicly tonight, that if it's necessary for teachers to schedule a separate day, that we would make sure they get paid for that hourly wage for any time outside of school. But that was the only suggestion really that came that we weren't able to implement. It was all good feedback, all meaningful feedback. And that would be the proposed calendar. I haven't seen the one from Swampscott yet. I asked Pam Angelakis for it because we might want to consider where our professional days are located.
I was just
in
gonna,
terms of sharing resources,
yeah.
saving money, having the same mindset on certain topics. So I don't think this is like due to the state right off the bat, or Swampscott would be missing the deadline. So I think tonight, maybe this is an initial view of it and any feedback you might have. And that I would suggest that you accept it in concept maybe, but not conduct a vote tonight. Then when we get Swampscott's calendar, we cross-reference it, make sure we're not sort of committing to any mistakes, so to speak, in the way we should do business next year.
No, I agree with that. That was gonna be one of my recommendations. You can grab it online, Rob, if you just Google it, or I can send it to you.
Oh, I haven't seen next year's yet.
So, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. If
Yeah,
they published
I've
out
got their
20.
version from this year. And she said they're working on what next year's will look like.
Yeah.
We did move some of the locations of the actual professional days around, like there's one that was, a little bit, later in the fall. And that was moved up a little bit. We moved one that had been in December up into November because so much of school had gone by. That was another teacher suggestion, that to be able to get that first sort of contact with parents, to wait till December 5th didn't make a whole lot of sense. So that's now earlier in November. So I think this is our best attempt at listening to feedback and also making improvements in the way the calendar's laid out. So. First view, first reading,
Yep, like the concept very much. So we'll
In
hold off
concept.
on voting on it.
and we'll bring it back for another vote.
Sounds great. So moving on to budgets.
Yeah, this was just our second chance to talk about the budget. We presented it last time. The finance committee, through Deborah Warren, has received a copy of it. The two versions, we had Tony here last time. Selectmen probably haven't seen it yet, and maybe they've received a copy at some point. But there's been no changes, no additions, no changes in the special education aspect of that budget. Remember, that was what was driving most of it. We're still carrying two versions. The version 2 contains the math and ELL specialist at about 70,000. You don't have to decide on that yet, but it's, as time goes on, you're getting closer to that. The 11th of February at 6:30 is the public budget meeting, which is held before your regular school meeting. And that would be a chance for anyone to present. And then I believe the finance committee will have us attend, or have me certainly attend, answer questions with regard to that. And I believe that will be sometime in March. Deborah, if you're on, is that correct, right, March? That's the date that she had shared with me.
She dropped off.
So we're basically where we were. I don't want to rehash the numbers unless you'd like me to.
No, there's no need. There's been no
Yep.
changes to it. So February, I'm putting that in the calendar, February 11th, 6:30.
Yep, and I think this is gonna be helpful. That's the actual time schedule. And then, there were more copies of the PowerPoint, as well as the list version of the budget. Support staff negotiations are ongoing. That will be part of that budget, but we had a good first meeting. Can't go into any detail on it, but, our next meeting is on the afternoon of the 11th. It is possible we may have a update coming out of that meeting. But I think it's been very cordial, very professional. The requests are reasonable and respectful, and the board has been equally as respectful on the other side of the way back, so.
It's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
So we can move on to any future agenda items.
Well, we have, we're gonna have a preschool restructuring and staffing proposal. We've met a couple of times. It still needs a little bit of flushing out, a little work, but we're gonna be bringing back a proposal about preschool and enhancing the opportunities there for kids.
That's great.
And then the district report cards are supposed to be issued yet. I haven't found it on DESI. So as soon as that's out there, there's a report card that's presented every year on every school in the state. We'll bring that back. And then we're still waiting to find out about our Essex Tech nominee for the school board, because you have to appoint them.
Yes, we do.
So at some point we need to do that.
Yes, we do.
And that would be it.
Excellent.
Can I ask, what's the preschool restructuring / staffing proposal involve? Just out of curiosity.
Nancy, you're on here. Can I put you on the spot and maybe you can briefly summarize that? It came from two seasoned, respected, staff members. And it's about lengthening out the educational component of the preschool. So Nancy, I don't know if can unmute yourself or not.
So is it just a proposal to change the amount of like education-based time that's spent each day as opposed to other time that the preschoolers spend?
Social emotional component to it, which, which may not have been there, so much in the past when lunch bunch came, the sort of educational part of the day ended. This is to lengthen out that educational component of the preschool. I don't think you will see any changes in the cost of it. I think what you just see is a better educational experience for the kids that are in it. And more preparatory for what comes next after preschool.
And your plan is to present that next meeting, Mr. Lebo?
We have to look at my calendar and see when our next, preschool meeting is. We met twice, Kevin and I, with
Okay,
Nancy
it's coming up. In the
and
future.
Katie Pastor, but,
Okay.
We'll get it out to you so that, there's still some details and fine structure that needs to be worked out. So.
That sounds good.
That's great.
Wonderful. Okay, well, if there is nothing else to talk about this evening, then could I have a motion to adjourn, this meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting on, January 28th at 7:43.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You too. Sorry.
Have a good night.
I walked in.
But these are. That's not a good thing, recording in progress.